Today, we're really cutting through a lot of the noise, trying to give you the strategic insight you actually need for, well, what many consider the ultimate relocation goal, the Australian dream. And for so many of you listening, that dream means, an amazing quality of life. We're talking rock-solid Social Security, a fantastic public health system, reasonable taxes, even that tropical climate. But actually getting there, getting that permanent residency or PR, it can feel almost impossible sometimes.
It really can. The whole process seems wrapped up in complex rules, confusing advice, and frankly, a lot of misinformation.
Exactly.
And that confusion, that's precisely what we're tackling today. We're drawing on materials from a source that really specializes in strategic immigration. We're talking over 2 decades of experience here.
Okay.
The whole point is to take all that information floating around, which is often contradictory, let's be honest, and boil it down into a clear, effective strategy for you.
That sounds crucial because the information trap is huge, isn't it? I mean, so many people just assume they have to start with expensive student visas or exchange programs, like it's step one.
It's a very common assumption.
We're going to challenge that today. We'll talk about a smarter, maybe more economic path, and importantly, we've got a specific, maybe surprising data point about the minimum score needed recently for one of the main permanent visas. Stick around for that.
Yeah, it's quite revealing. What's really interesting, or what our source material highlights, is that the core problem isn't really a lack of information. You go online, you search Australian migration.
Oh yeah, you're flooded. Thousands of results.
Yeah.
Blogs, forums, official sites.
Exactly. The details are everywhere. Almost everyone can access the visa criteria. But what the source material insists is truly scarce, genuinely hard to find, is the ability to interpret all that raw data correctly.
So it's not the what, it's the so what.
Precisely. Forming an unbiased, evidence-based diagnosis for your specific situation, your profile. That's the tricky part. Having data is easy, it's cheap. Turning that data into an effective, predictable strategy, that's where the real value is.
Okay, but if the info is out there, why do so many sources, even some well-meaning blogs or general migration sites, seem to get the advice wrong? Why push people down these costly, often very long paths?
Well, I think it often comes down to context and, frankly, deep experience. The analysis we looked at really stresses that it takes decades of practice, seeing thousands of cases, to reliably turn raw data into a solid action plan.
Right, not just reading the rules.
Not just reading the rules. If you only look at the simplified criteria, like do I have X job, am I under 45, you miss the strategic nuances, the other opportunities.
Okay, can you give an example?
Sure. A really common misconception we found discussed is this idea that eligibility is only about having a specific job from a list and being under 45.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
It's incomplete. Actually, it's highly misleading. The good news is the Australian system is designed with multiple pathways. There are various ways to get a work visa or immigrate that go way beyond just hitting that basic age and occupation checkbox. It's more about how your overall skill set fits into what the economy needs right now.
That makes a lot more sense. It's not just a simple checklist. It's more like a strategy game. Okay, so let's map out the bigger picture then. Who is the Australian immigration program actually trying to attract? What are the main routes? Broadly, we can group the main pathways maybe into 4 areas. First, you've got the skill tracks, often based on points. These include things like the skilled independent visa, that's subclass 189, and the skilled nominated visa, the 190.
Correct. Those are very popular for professionals. Then you have the employer-sponsored routes. Think employer nomination scheme or ENS, where an Australian business sponsors you. That's another major pathway.
Okay, skills and jobs. What else?
Well, beyond just employment, the program also puts a really strong focus on capital and innovation. So you have the business and investment visas.
For entrepreneurs and investors.
Exactly. Things like the business innovation stream, the investor stream, and even the business talent visa for high caliber individuals.
It was quite broad.
It really is. The scope is designed to attract qualified professionals, yes, definitely, but also small, medium, large business owners, established investors, and even entrepreneurs with new startup ideas. They're looking for people who will contribute economically in various ways, not just fill jobs.
Got it. And then, of course, there are the family connections, partner visas, parent visas, which are essential categories, and student visas, which we need to talk more about later. But for the skilled professional listening right now, maybe an engineer, a nurse, an IT specialist, that skilled independent visa seems like the main target, right?
Yeah.
The gold standard, as some call it.
Absolutely. The skilled independent, the subclass 189, is often seen that way because it gives you permanent residency directly without needing sponsorship from a state government or a specific employer. You qualify based on your own merits.
And it's point-based.
Correct. Your age, your qualifications, your English skills, your work experience, they all add up to a score. And this leads us straight to that crucial, perhaps myth-busting data point we mentioned earlier.
Right. This is where things get interesting because, the chatter online often suggests you need an incredibly high score for the 189 visa. People throw around numbers like 75, 80, even 90 points or more to be competitive.
Yeah, those high scores are often discussed. But look at the specific data from our source. Back in September 2020, during a specific invitation round just for the skilled independent visa, subclass 189, the cutoff score, the minimum score invited, was just 65 points.
65. Wow. Okay, just 65
Yeah.
points. Help us unpack that. What's the strategic significance of that number? Because it sounds much lower than the narrative suggests.
It's a huge signal. Now, okay, we need context. That round was during a unique period, the pandemic, and the government might have been adjusting settings to ensure future skilled pipelines remained open. However, 65 points is the legal minimum required to even lodge an application.
Right. That's the baseline eligibility.
Exactly. The fact that the Department of Home Affairs actually issued 350 invitations at that absolute minimum score tells you something significant. It suggests the government was actively broadening the pool, potentially looking further down the points list than usual.
So it challenges that idea that you always need 80 or 90 points to even have a chance.
It fundamentally changes the perception of the competitive landscape for PR, at least for that period. And for many skilled professionals, hitting 65 points. That can be achievable just based on, say, good qualifications, solid work experience, and strong English skills. It might be closer than you think.
Okay, so the big message there is don't automatically rule yourself out based on some super high score you read about somewhere. First, figure out if you can actually reach that 65-point threshold.
Precisely. Assess your own potential against the baseline first. And this idea of accessibility often connects directly to another strategic element, considering a regional area as part of your skilled migration plan.
Ah, regional Australia.
Yeah.
Now, what does regional actually mean in this context? Because I suspect many listeners might immediately think of, very remote, tiny towns in the outback.
Yeah, that's a common image, but the definition used in the immigration program is much broader. The source analysis clarifies this really well. Geographically speaking, regional Australia, for migration purposes, covers practically all of Australia.
All of it?
Almost. The only major exceptions are the metropolitan areas of just 3 cities: Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Everywhere else is considered regional.
Okay, that's vast. So Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, Gold Coast, Hobart, all regional.
Under this definition, yes. And the government has built in significant incentives for skilled migrants who are willing to live and work in these designated regional areas.
What kind of incentives?
Often, if you get a nomination from a state or territory government for a regional visa, or sometimes even sponsorship from an employer in a regional area, you can receive bonus points towards your score.
Ah, so it helps you reach the target score faster.
Exactly. It can make hitting that competitive score, even if it tends to drift higher than 65 most of the time, much more achievable. Plus, there are specific regional visas designed to fast-track PR for those who commit to these areas. It's a deliberate strategy by the government to distribute skills beyond just the 3 biggest cities.
That's a really powerful incentive then. Get bonus points, potentially face a lower competitive threshold, and you're looking at maybe 99% of the country geographically, just excluding those 3 main capitals.
Correct. It opens up a lot more strategic options.
Okay, but now we have to pivot and address that potential pitfall, the hidden cost trap. The mistake so many people seem to make by defaulting straight to a student visa, thinking they have to be physically in Australia to start the process.
Yes, this is critical. Our source material is quite blunt about this. It strongly argues that you absolutely do not need to spend, and I quote, rivers of money on exchange programs or student visas as a necessary first step for your Australian journey.
Rivers of money. That sounds expensive.
It is, and this is probably the single biggest financial misstep prospective migrants make, especially skilled professionals who might already qualify for PR directly.
Why is it such a trap? What are the downsides of the student visa route if PR is the end goal?
Well, the economics and the professional reality can be quite harsh. When you're in Australia on a student visa, you face strict limits on how much you can work.
Right, I remember reading about that
You're typically restricted to a maximum of 40 hours per fortnight while your course is in session.
40 hours a fortnight.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's break that down. That's only 20 hours per week on average.
Exactly, 20 hours a week. Now think about trying to cover Australian living costs, which are not cheap, on just 20 hours of work per week. It's tough, often impossible without significant savings or support.
Yeah, you'd struggle to cover rent and food, let alone save anything or pay tuition.
And beyond the financial strain, that work limitation creates a huge professional hurdle. The analysis we reviewed explicitly states that student visa holders, even if they have great qualifications from overseas, generally do not get preference from most Australian employers for actual professional roles.
Why not?
Think about it from the employer's perspective. Why would they hire someone for a professional job who can legally only work 20 hours a week during term time when they could hire an Australian citizen, a permanent resident, or someone on a different visa with full work rights?
Okay. So you're automatically at a disadvantage in the professional job market, even if you have the skills.
Precisely. You pay extremely high international student tuition fees, often tens of thousands of dollars per year, and at the same time, you're structurally limited in your ability to gain relevant professional employment and cover your costs. It can feel like a real lose-lose situation if your primary goal is professional integration and permanent residency.
That sounds incredibly frustrating. You invest so much, hoping it's a stepping stone, but it actually hinders your professional progress.
And the financial side is stark. Looking at the official figures cited by the Department of Home Affairs, they estimate an individual international student needs around AU $21,041 per year just for basic living costs.
$21,000 just to live before tuition.
Before tuition, before flights, before health insurance extras, that's roughly AU $400 a week just for accommodation, food, transport, basics. And if you bring a partner or children, that required amount jumps significantly higher.
Wow. That is a massive financial commitment before you even know if you actually stand a chance for the ultimate goal, which is permanent residency.
Exactly.
So this really brings us to the core strategic advice, doesn't it?
It does. The consistent recommendation coming through from this specialized analysis is crystal clear. Before you commit huge sums of money and valuable time to an expensive student visa or exchange program, one that actually limits your professional options, you should first find out if you're eligible for a permanent residency program directly.
Diagnose before you treat, essentially.
Perfectly put. Diagnose your eligibility for the long-term solution before investing heavily in a temporary, expensive, and professionally restrictive treatment, like a student visa that might not even lead where you want to go. Get a basic assessment done, see where you stand with PR first.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, let's try and summarize the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Absolutely. I think the essential points for you, the listener thinking strategically, are these. First, remember that just having information isn't enough. Knowledge is everywhere, but it's the skilled diagnosis based on deep experience that turns that information into a winning migration strategy.
Right. Strategy over just data. What's takeaway number 2?
Don't get put off by rumors or sky-high points requirements you might hear about. The skilled independent visa, the 189, can be accessible. That 65-point cutoff example, even if it was specific, shows that Australia's need for skills can sometimes open doors wider than people realize. Investigate your actual potential score.
Okay, accessible pathways exist. Don't self-disqualify. And the third key point.
Be really strategic about your initial investment, both time and money. Seriously, consider prioritizing a direct path to permanent residency eligibility first. Try hard not to fall into that common, costly student visa trap, especially if it disadvantages you professionally and financially and might just delay achieving your real goal.
Excellent summary. Diagnosis, accessibility, and strategic investment. And just to leave you with a final thought, something that really underscores the value Australia places on skill and contribution. Our source material actually mentioned the story of a Nobel laureate, Richard Robson.
Ah, yes, the chemist.
That's right. He won the Nobel Prize, and apparently the very next day, at 88 years old, he was back in the lab contributing.
It's a powerful anecdote, isn't it? Even though it's from a while back, it really speaks volumes about a core principle that seems embedded in the Australian system. They value expertise, contribution, and skill, often irrespective of age or background. And that underlying focus on skill is mirrored in how the immigration system itself is structured.
So here's the thought to ponder. If Australia fundamentally values contribution and skill so highly, how does knowing that principle influence the best strategic steps you should take right now? Maybe stop focusing so much on the cost of the student visa or the perceived barriers and start focusing on the potential value of your skills and how you can pursue the pathway that leverages those skills most directly and quickly. That's your deep dive for today.